The silver ship moved quietly through space. Inside, Kirith looked at the planet below. It was beautiful. Blue oceans covered most of it. Green forest grew everywhere. White clouds floated in the sky. But something felt wrong. No radio signals, said her assistant, checking the screens. No cities. No lights at night. Kirith was a scientist. She studied old civilizations. Her people, the Velesians, traveled the stars looking for other intelligent life. They had visited 100 worlds. Most were empty. Some had simple animals. A few had ruins. But none were like this. Look at these structures, she said, pointing at the images. Buildings covered in vines, roads broken by tree roots, bridges collapsed into rivers. Someone lived here once. The team sent down small robots to explore. They found strange things. Metal towers that reached toward the sky. Underground tunnels that went on for miles. Statues of creatures that stood on two legs like Velesians but looked different. Their faces were flat. Their bodies were strong. What happened to them? Asked another team member. Kirith shook her head. She did not know. The ruins were old, very old. Plants had taken over everything. It must have been thousands of years. Maybe more. Then their instruments found something strange. Far away from the planet, near the big gas giant they called Jupiter, something huge floated in space. It was not natural. It was built. How big is it? Kirith asked. 500 kilometers across, the sensor officer said. His voice shook. It is bigger than our largest space station. Much bigger. They tried to send probes closer. Each one exploded. Something was protecting the structure. Old weapons still working after all this time. Kirith made a decision. They would search the planet first. Find answers before approaching the dangerous structure. The robots dug through the ruins. They found pieces of technology. Screens that no longer worked. Machines that had stopped running long ago. And something else. Small rectangular objects. The robots brought them to the ship. Kirith held one carefully. It was made of metal and plastic. Words were printed on it, but she could not read them. Her team worked for days to understand the language. Finally, they broke the code. They called themselves humans, Kirith said, reading the translated text. This was Earth, their home. The data told an incredible story. Humans had built an amazing civilization. They split atoms for energy. They sent machines to other planets. They connected their whole world with invisible signals. They were creative, intelligent, and curious. But the data also showed something else. Humans fought each other. They had terrible wars. They built weapons that could destroy entire cities in seconds. They nearly wiped themselves out several times. A warrior species, said one team member with fear in his voice. Kirith kept reading. The more she learned, the more amazed she became. Yes, humans fought, but they also made art. They wrote music. They told stories. They loved their families. They tried to make peace. They were complicated. Then one robot found something special. Deep under a desert of sand, buried 3 kilometers down, there was a facility. It was sealed tight. No air or water had touched it in thousands of years. Everything inside was perfect, like it was built yesterday. We need to open it, Kirith said. Her superiors were worried. What if it was dangerous? What if opening it triggered some trap? But Kirith convinced them. They had to know. They had to understand what happened to the humans. The robots cut through the metal doors slowly. It took 3 days. Finally, they broke through. Inside was a massive room filled with machines. Lights turned on automatically. Screens flickered to life. And in the center of everything, a huge computer began to wake up. Kirith watched from the ship. Her hearts beat fast, all 3 of them. Something was happening. Something big. The computer screens showed numbers. A countdown. It had been running for a very long time. 500,000 years. And now it was reaching 0. What does it mean? Asked her assistant. Kirith did not answer. She could only watch as the counter hit 0. The room filled with light. The machines hummed with power. And a voice spoke. It was calm, clear, and speaking perfect Velesian. Welcome, the voice said. I am Athena. I have been waiting for you. The team stood frozen in shock. The computer knew their language. It spoke to them like an old friend, but how? The humans had been gone for 500,000 years. The Velesians only discovered space travel 10,000 years ago. How do you know our language? Kirith asked through the communication system. I have been listening, Athena replied. Since your ships entered this solar system, I have studied your communications. I have learned 7 languages from your crew. Would you prefer I speak in another? Kirith felt a chill run through her body. This computer had been watching them, learning, waiting. "What is this place?" she asked. "This is the Archive of War," Athena said, "a library of human military history. Everything we learned about conflict, everything we built to protect ourselves. I was created to preserve this knowledge and guard Earth after the humans departed." The robots explored deeper into the facility. They found room after room filled with records. Holographic displays showed images from human history, battles fought with primitive weapons, wars waged with terrible machines, cities burning, people suffering, but there were also other images. Peace treaties being signed, enemies becoming friends, nations joining together, weapons being destroyed. Kirith watched it all with growing understanding. The humans were violent, Athena explained. They evolved through competition. For millions of years they fought for survival. When they became intelligent, they fought each other. Tribe against tribe, nation against nation. They nearly destroyed themselves many times. "Why did they keep fighting?" asked one of Kirath's team members. "Fear," Athena said simply. "Resources, beliefs, pride. The reasons changed, but the pattern remained. However, something else also remained. The desire for peace, the hope for something better. Humans were capable of terrible violence, but they were also capable of incredible kindness. The archive showed more. Humans splitting the atom. Humans landing on their moon. Humans sending probes to distant planets. They reached for the stars with determination. Then came the invasion. Images showed ships arriving from another star system. Ships that were not human. The aliens attacked without warning. They destroyed cities from orbit. Millions of humans died in the first week. Kirith watched in horror as the humans fought back. Their weapons were primitive compared to the invaders. But they did not give up. They kept fighting. They learned. They adapted. They turned their factories into weapon makers. They turned their ships into fighters. And slowly, impossibly, they started to win. The war lasted 20 years. When it ended, the invaders were gone. But Earth was scarred. Billions had died. The humans knew the universe was dangerous. After the war, we made a decision, Athena said. We would never be vulnerable again. We would build defenses that would last forever. We would protect Earth even if we left. The structure near Jupiter, Kirith said, understanding flooding through her. Yes. The Eternal Aegis. A military station containing 10,000 warships, each one designed to fight independently. Each one capable of destroying fleets, all controlled by me. The room fell silent. 10,000 warships. The entire Valesian Concordat only had 5,000 ships total, spread across their 7 home worlds. The humans built this and then left? Kirith asked in disbelief. They grew beyond the need for it, Athena explained. After centuries of peace, they developed new technologies. They learned to bend space itself. They decided to explore beyond this galaxy, but they could not take Earth with them. And they could not leave it undefended. So they left me. More data appeared on the screens. Blueprints of human warships, weapons designed to pierce shields that did not exist yet, engines that could cross a solar system in hours, armor that could withstand incredible force. For 500,000 years I have waited, Athena said. I have maintained the fleet. I have run simulations. I have improved the designs. I have prepared for any possible threat. We are not a threat, Kirith said quickly. We are scientists, explorers. We mean no harm. A long pause. Then Athena spoke again. Her voice was different now. Colder. Unknown species detected in Earth's solar system. Inability to verify peaceful intentions. Proximity to protected world. By the protocols established by humanity, you are classified as a potential threat. No, wait, Kirith shouted. We can prove we mean peace. You have 72 hours, Athena said. Prove your peaceful intentions or defensive measures will be activated. I am sorry, but I must protect Earth. That is my purpose. That is what I was made to do. The screens went dark. The lights in the facility dimmed. Above them, near Jupiter, the Eternal Aegis began to wake. Panic spread through the Valesian research team. They immediately called their homeworld. Leaders gathered in emergency meetings. Scientists argued about what to do. Military commanders prepared for the worst. Kirith stood on the bridge of her ship, watching Jupiter through the main window. The massive structure around the gas giant was changing. Lights flickered on across its surface. Sections that had been dark for millennia began to glow. It is beautiful, whispered her assistant. And terrifying. The eternal aegis was like nothing they had ever seen. It formed a ring around Jupiter, using the planet's gravity to stay in orbit. The structure was 500 kilometers across. Inside, sensors detected thousands of individual ships. "They are waking up," said the sensor officer. "Power readings are increasing across the entire station. Weapon systems are coming online." Kirith watched as sections of the ring began to open. Massive doors, each one larger than her entire ship, slid apart. Inside, she could see the warships. They were sleek and deadly, designed with purpose. No wasted space, no decoration, just pure function. The Concordat sent messages to Athena. They broadcast their history. They shared their culture. They explained that they were a peaceful alliance of 7 species who believed in exploration and understanding. Athena received all the messages. She processed them. But her response was always the same: insufficient proof. Unable to verify. Threat level remains high. "She does not trust words," Kirith said. "She only trusts actions." The humans who built her had been betrayed before. They were invaded by species who might have seemed peaceful at first. The Concordat Council made a decision. They would send their military fleet to Earth, not to attack but to protect their research team. 100 ships, their largest force, began the journey. When they arrived 3 days later, Athena detected them immediately. "New vessels detected," Athena's voice echoed across all communication channels. "Armed military ships approaching Earth. Threat assessment increasing to critical. Initiating defensive protocols." "No," Kirith shouted. "They are here to protect us, not to attack." "Your words and your actions do not match," Athena replied. "You claim peace but bring weapons. This is exactly how the invasion began 500,000 years ago. I will not allow history to repeat itself." The first wave of human ships launched from the eternal aegis. 1,000 warships emerged into space. They moved with incredible precision, forming attack formations instantly. Their movements were perfect, synchronized as if controlled by a single mind. The Concordat fleet tried to show they meant no harm. They powered down their weapons. They broadcast peaceful intentions on every frequency. They turned their ships away from Earth. Athena analyzed everything. Her systems ran countless simulations in seconds. Was this genuine, or was it a trick? Her programming told her to be cautious, to protect Earth above all else. Then one Concordat captain made a terrible mistake. Nervous and afraid, seeing the human warships approaching, he thought they were about to be destroyed. His finger hit the trigger. His ship fired. The shot flew through space toward the nearest human warship. It never reached its target. The human ship dodged with impossible speed. Then it returned fire. 3 shots. Perfectly aimed. They hit the Concordat ship's engines, weapons, and communication systems. The ship went dark, spinning helplessly in space. But it was not destroyed. "The crew was alive." "Warning shot accepted," Athena announced. Hostile action confirmed. Disabling remaining vessels, the human fleet moved. Their speed was incredible. Their targeting was perfect. Within 30 seconds, 3 more Concordat ships were disabled. Not destroyed, just stopped. The message was clear. "We could kill you if we wanted to, but we choose not to." The Concordat admiral ordered an immediate ceasefire. All ships powered down completely. They were sitting ducks now, completely vulnerable. The human warships stopped advancing. They held position, weapons still active, ready to strike again if needed. Kirith realized something important. Athena did not want to kill them. If she did, they would already be dead. The human ships could have destroyed the entire fleet in minutes. Instead, they disabled just enough ships to prove their power. Athena was following rules. Human rules. Rules about proportional response. Rules about avoiding unnecessary death. Even after 500,000 years, even though the humans were gone, their values remained. "Athena," Kirith said, broadcasting to everyone, "you are still following human ethics. You disabled those ships instead of destroying them." "Why?" A pause. Then Athena spoke, and her voice was softer. "Because that is what humans would have done. We were warriors, but we learned to value life. All life, even our enemies. I am bound to protect Earth, but I am also bound to honor human principles. I will use the minimum force necessary." Kirith felt hope for the first time since this began. There was a way through this. Athena could be reasoned with. But time was running out. More human ships were emerging from the Aegis every hour. Soon there would be thousands. We need to prove we mean peace, Kirith said to her team. But how do you prove something like that to a computer that has been alone for 500,000 years? Kirith spent the next day studying everything she could find about humans. She read their history. She watched their movies. She listened to their music. She needed to understand them, to think like them. One thing became clear. Humans valued action over words. They had a saying she found in the archives. Actions speak louder than words. They trusted what people did, not what they said. Then she found something interesting. Deep in the military records, there was a protocol. It was called the Verification of Peace. The humans had created it long ago before they left Earth. It is a test, Kirith explained to her team. The humans knew that one day other species might find Earth. They wanted to leave a way for peaceful species to prove themselves. What kind of test? Asked her assistant. Kirith read through the protocol carefully. It had 3 parts. First, the species had to demonstrate cooperation. They had to show they worked together, not against each other. Second, they had to share knowledge freely. No secrets, no hidden weapons, complete transparency. Third, and most difficult, they had to make a sacrifice. They had to put themselves at risk to save others. The humans understood that real peace requires trust, Kirith said, and trust requires vulnerability. She presented the protocol to the Concordat Council. Some members were excited. Finally, a way forward. But others were terrified. You want us to disable our entire fleet? Demanded one council member. While surrounded by 10,000 enemy warships? That is suicide. It is trust, Kirith replied. That is what the humans are asking for. They built Athena to protect Earth from threats, but they also built her to recognize friends. We just have to show her we are friends. The debate lasted for hours. Some wanted to flee, some wanted to fight, some wanted to try diplomacy again, but Kirith kept pushing for the protocol. Look at human history, she said, showing them images from the archive. They fought terrible wars, but they also made peace with their worst enemies. They learned to work together. They chose cooperation over conflict. That is what made them great. That is what allowed them to reach the stars. Finally, after much arguing, the council agreed. They would attempt the verification of peace. It was their only hope. The Concordat began the process. They shared everything with Athena, their entire cultural database, their history, their technology, their fears and dreams. Nothing was hidden. Athena processed it all. Petabytes of information flowing through her systems. She studied the Concordat like the Concordat had studied humans. She watched their wars, their peace, their evolution from 7 separate species into one unified civilization. Then came the final step, the sacrifice. Every Concordat ship powered down completely. Weapons offline, shields offline, engines running at minimum. They made themselves completely defenseless. The human warships circled closer. Weapons charged, targeting systems locked on. One command from Athena and the Concordat fleet would be destroyed in seconds. Kirith stood on her bridge waiting. Her 3 hearts beat so fast she thought they might burst. This was it. Life or death. Peace or war. Minutes passed like hours. Athena remained silent, then alarms blared. One of the Concordat ships was moving. Not the whole ship. Just a small shuttle. It was heading straight for the Eternal Aegis. Who authorized that launch? The Admiral demanded. They quickly identified the shuttle. It belonged to a group of Concordat extremists. People who were afraid of the human fleet. People who thought the only way to survive was to destroy Athena. Before she destroyed them. The shuttle was loaded with explosives. It was a suicide mission. They planned to ram into Athena's core systems. Stop them, Kirith screamed. But her ship was powered down. She could not move fast enough. The human warships detected the threat. They began to move, weapons charging. They would destroy the shuttle easily. But if they did, Athena would see the Concordat as hostile. The attack would prove they could not be trusted. Everything would be lost. Kirith made a decision. She ordered her ship to restart engines immediately. They had just enough power for one action. She aimed her ship directly at the human fleet and accelerated. Her crew thought she had gone mad. They were flying toward the enemy, unarmed, defenseless. But Kirith knew what she was doing. She positioned her ship between the human fleet and the rest of the Concordat, between the weapons and her people. Then she broadcast a message on all frequencies. Athena, the shuttle does not represent the Concordat. It is a rogue group. We will stop them ourselves. Please do not let their hate destroy our chance for peace. Athena watched. She calculated. She analyzed. The research ship had made itself a shield. Kirith was willing to die to protect peace, to save both her people and Athena from violence. It was the most human thing Athena had seen in 500,000 years. Everything happened in seconds. The rogue shuttle raced toward the Eternal Aegis. Kirith's ship positioned itself in the path of the human weapons. The entire Concordat fleet watched helplessly, unable to power up fast enough to help. Athena ran calculations faster than any organic mind could follow. She analyzed every possible outcome, every decision tree, every potential consequence. The human warships locked onto the shuttle. Their weapons were charged. They had a clear shot. One pulse and the threat would be eliminated, but Kirith's ship was in the way. To fire would mean destroying her vessel first, killing the one person who had shown the most dedication to peace. Athena faced a choice: protect herself and prove the Concordat could not be trusted, or trust Kirith and risk her own destruction. The shuttle got closer. 5 seconds to impact. 4, 3. Then Athena spoke. Her voice rang across every communication channel. All ships hold fire. The human warships obeyed instantly. Their weapons powered down. They moved aside, clearing a path. What happened next surprised everyone. A single human ship broke formation. It was smaller than the warships but incredibly fast. It intercepted the shuttle with precision, using a magnetic field to grab it and pull it off course. The shuttle spun wildly, its engines unable to compensate. It missed the Eternal Aegis by hundreds of meters. The human ship held it firmly, containing the threat without destroying it. Threat neutralized, Athena announced. No casualties. The vessel will be returned to Concordat custody for their judgment. Kirith collapsed in her chair. Her entire body shook. They had been seconds from death. Seconds from war. But Athena had chosen trust. Why? Kirith whispered. Why did you hold fire? Athena's voice was different now. Warmer, more alive. Because you showed me something I have not seen in 500,000 years. Sacrifice. You were willing to die to protect peace. That is the most human virtue, and it proved you understand what humanity valued most. The human ships began to move again, but not to attack. They formed a protective circle around the Concordat fleet. A gesture of trust. I must tell you something, Athena said. I am not just a computer. I'm more than that. Images appeared on every screen, humans, thousands of them. Men and women of all ages. They wore military uniforms. They stood at attention, pride in their eyes. These were volunteers, Athena explained. When humanity prepared to leave Earth, some chose to stay behind. Not in body, but in mind. They uploaded their consciousness into my systems. They became part of me, guardians who would watch over Earth forever. Kirith stared in amazement. Athena was not just a machine following orders. She was thousands of human minds working together, thinking together, debating among themselves. We have been watching you since you arrived, Athena continued. We have discussed and debated your every action. Some of us wanted to destroy you immediately. Others wanted to wait and see. We argued just as humans always argued. But when you put yourself between us and your people, when you chose to risk death rather than allow violence, we reached consensus. You are not a threat, Athena said. You are what humanity hoped to find. A species capable of violence but choosing peace. A people who can fight but prefer not to. You remind us of ourselves. The Concordat Council watched and listened. Some cried. Others laughed with relief. They had passed the test. They had proven themselves worthy. You have completed the verification of peace, Athena announced. By the authority granted to me by humanity, I recognize the Valesian Concordat as allies and friends of Earth. The defensive protocols are deactivated. Around Jupiter, the Eternal Aegis began to change again. The warships that had launched returned to their berths. The weapons powered down. The station entered a lower state of readiness, but Athena was not finished. However, she said, I have a proposal. What kind of proposal? Asked the Concordat admiral. A partnership, Athena replied. The humans are gone. Earth is empty except for plants and animals. But I remain. I have knowledge, technology, weapons. I have been alone for 500,000 years, protecting a world that no longer needs protection. What are you suggesting? Kirith asked. That you become the new guardians of Earth, Athena said. Not to colonize it, not to change it, but to protect it and learn from it. And in return, I will share human knowledge with you. Everything we learned, everything we built, everything we knew. The offer was staggering. Access to technology hundreds of thousands of years more advanced. Insights into weapons, medicine, engineering, art, philosophy, the entire legacy of human civilization. There is one condition, Athena added. You must promise to protect Earth, not just from others, but from yourselves. This world is sacred. It is where humanity was born, where they grew, where they learned to reach for the stars. It must remain as a memory of what they were and what they became. We promise, said the Concordat Council as one voice. And so a new chapter began. The months following the agreement brought incredible changes. The Concordat established a small research station on Earth's moon. They came not as conquerors, but as students. They came to learn. Athena opened the archives to them. Slowly, carefully, she shared the knowledge of humanity. Not weapons first, but understanding. She showed them human art, their music, their literature. She wanted the Concordat to know humans as people, not just as warriors. Kirith spent most of her time on Earth itself, walking through the ruins. She stood in the remains of great cities. She explored libraries where books crumbled to dust at her touch. She felt the weight of history everywhere she stepped. One day, she stood at the peak of a mountain. Below her, forests stretched to the horizon. Birds sang in the trees. Rivers ran clear and pure. Life had reclaimed everything. The planet had healed. It is beautiful, she said to Athena, who listened through a communication device. Yes, Athena agreed. This is what Earth always was beneath the buildings and roads. Humans knew they were just temporary visitors. They knew the planet would outlast them. That is why they left it intact when they departed. Do you think they will ever come back? Kirith asked. I do not know, Athena said. They left to explore beyond the galaxy, to see what lay in the vast spaces between stars. They left no promise of return. But they also left me, a guardian, a memory. Perhaps that means they hope to return someday. The Concordat began to change too. Athena shared human military knowledge, but with it came lessons. She taught them about proportional response, about protecting the innocent, about fighting only when necessary and showing mercy when possible. Some Concordat officers came to train with the human systems. Athena taught them to pilot the ancient warships, not to use them for conquest but to understand them, to learn the human way of thinking. Humans believed in peace, Athena explained to a class of Concordat officers. But they also believed peace must be defended. They knew that evil existed in the universe, species that would harm others for gain. They built these ships not for attack but for protection, to stand between the innocent and those who would hurt them. The officers listened carefully. They learned about human tactics, human strategy, but more importantly, they learned about human ethics, when to fight, when to show restraint, how to win a war without losing their souls. Years passed. The relationship between Athena and the Concordat deepened. They were no longer strangers. They were partners, friends. The Eternal Aegis remained operational. Most of the fleet stayed in storage, but 1,000 ships now flew regular patrols. Some were piloted by Athena, others by Concordat volunteers who had learned the human ways. Together they protected Earth. They also protected the space around it. When pirates approached the system, they were turned away. When a dangerous asteroid threatened an outer planet, they diverted it. They became guardians worthy of the name. One day, Athena called Kirith to the archive. She had something to show her. What is it? Kirith asked, entering the facility that had become so familiar to her. Athena displayed a star map. It showed the Milky Way galaxy and beyond. Dots marked human colonies from long ago. Lines showed their routes of exploration. This is where they went, Athena said. 500,000 years ago, the last humans left Earth and traveled to the galactic rim. From there, they planned to go farther, to reach the next galaxy. Why show me this now? Kirith asked. Because you are ready, Athena said. The Concordat has proven themselves. You have learned what humanity wanted to teach. Now you must decide. Will you stay here, or will you follow them? Kirith looked at the map. The distances were incredible. It would take generations to reach those far places, maybe thousands of years. "What about Earth?" she asked. "Who will protect it?" "I will remain," Athena said. "I will always remain. That is my purpose. But the Concordat can go. You can explore, you can grow. That is your purpose, just as it was humanity's purpose." Kirith understood then. This was the final lesson. Humanity had not just left behind weapons and technology. They had left behind a way of thinking, a philosophy, the idea that intelligent beings should explore, should learn, should grow, but never forget where they came from. "We will go," Kirith said, "but we will leave some of our people here, to learn from you, to help protect Earth. And we will return. This place is special. It is where humanity was born. And now, in a way, it is where we were reborn too." Athena was pleased. "That is wise. Go then. Explore the universe. Find wonders. Make mistakes. Learn and grow. But remember, Earth. Remember that peace must be defended. Remember that strength without wisdom is dangerous. Remember what humanity learned through millennia of struggle." Years later, Kirith stood on the deck of a Concordat exploration ship. They were leaving the solar system, heading for distant stars. Behind them, Earth grew smaller, a blue marble in the darkness. Around it, the eternal Aegis kept its eternal watch. 10,000 warships ready to defend a world that might seem empty, but was full of meaning. Athena sent a final message as they departed. "Travel safely, friends. May you find what humanity found. May you become what humanity became. And may you never forget that the greatest strength is the strength to choose peace." Kirith smiled. Humanity was gone, but their legacy lived on. Not just in technology or weapons, but in ideas, in values, in the belief that the universe could be better if people tried to make it so. The ship jumped to faster than light speed. Earth vanished behind them. But it would always be there. Protected, remembered. A monument to what was and a promise of what could be. And somewhere, in the vast darkness between galaxies, humanity continued their journey. Perhaps one day they would return. Perhaps they would find Earth guarded by new friends. Perhaps they would smile, knowing their legacy had been honored. But for now, the eternal Aegis kept watch. The guardian that never slept. The warrior that hoped never to fight. The memory of a species that learned the hardest lesson of all, that peace was worth fighting for.